Did the 49ers miss out on Matthew Stafford, John? That is the question we must answer.
And we're going to dive into it right now here on the YouTube page. So subscribe to it and like the video.
Also, check out our podcast down in the description below. We think you'll like that as well. Did the Niners miss out on Matthew Stafford? Now that we know the price, and it's hard because Jared Goff was included to make an apples-to-apples comparison. Like, they traded 2 ones. Could the Niners have traded 2 ones? But seeing the price now, did the Niners miss out? Should they have gone to 2 ones? And if they had, would that have gotten the deal done? What do you think?
To me, if he had ended up on Washington and definitely on the Colts, I don't think it would be that big a deal. And I don't think fans would be up in arms or questioning anything. But he ended up on the Rams, who are in the division, and a team that the Niners recently have kind of kicked their ass. But McVay, Shanahan, like, it's a thing. It's a thing we talk about nonstop. So let's dive into just the package. One, I understand anyone this stinks. Because you go, the Rams got rid of Jared Goff. The Niners, we've been fucking talking about Jimmy Garoppolo for whatever, 3 years, really. The year he hurt his ACL, then the year he goes to Super Bowl, and now this year this year was a disaster. And they still got him. Now it's early. It's only, like I keep saying, January 31st as we're recording this. This doesn't even become official till the middle of March. But as of right now, they got rid of Jared Goff and got Matt Stafford. They just pulled that off. And the Niners are just still stuck here with Jimmy Garoppolo.
You just reminded me that 2 weeks ago we had a conversation about the Rams and the Niners and the division. And one thing I felt, and I think you agreed, was whatever happens with the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cardinals, the one thing you'll always feel good about now as the Rams get more expensive and they don't have this collection of first-round picks that they've been using to reinfuse their team with talent. For the next 2 or 3 years, they won't be able to run away from you. They won't be able to truly separate themselves from the Niners, even if they're good, because of Jared Goff. Like, he just limits them. And ultimately, I think that's a big reason why they did the deal, is because they knew they had a limiter. They could not accelerate past a certain speed because he was their quarterback. And now you look over and go, oh, my God, they actually upgraded. So do we need to react if we're the Niners?
Well, see, one thing I'm not going to overreact on as of today is we still got time left in the offseason. Like, the offseason, that wasn't the last day of the offseason, and they're just impossible to make moves. So as we sit here right now, the Niners have the worst quarterback in the division, I think by a wide margin. Like, what quarterbacks do you want?
Well,
no one, if it was girls in a bar, be 3 babes, some younger than older, but Jimmy actually is probably the best looking one, but in this analogy, he's by far the worst looking one. So it's a disaster.
Different strokes for different folks, John.
Yeah, it's a disaster from that standpoint. Now, would they have accepted, like, what if I had told you they had traded pick 12, a 2021, 2022 first rounder, so pick 12, next year's first rounder. Let's say the third is next year, because part of the Rams giving the third is they just didn't have anything to give them. They had to give them something. So the third is next year and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think people would have been like, damn, right? They gave him 2 ones, and this one is really good.
Yeah, so
if you just base it on the Rams ones, one thing I think you have to take into account is in the last 4 years, the Rams have been, unlike the Niners, to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. And 2 of those 4 years, they've been in the second round, and that 1 year they went to the Super Bowl. So 2 of those years, their picks have been past 24. So right away, pick 12, if they just make it to the divisional round, let's just say one of the next 2 years and first round and out, pick 12 right away is like better than pick 23 and 24 in back-to-back years, right? Or the Colts or whoever. Like, 12 is a lot. And we've been talking about that. Like, it's hard to just throw other ones with 12 because you go 12 is not equal. You could give me pick 24. If you wanted to get to 12, would you do 24 in next year's 1? You might, but you think about it. Like, that's a lot. 12 is a powerful entity.
Yeah, I would commend, if the Niners had done that deal, I would commend them for being aggressive for a player that's clearly an upgrade. But I would, and we talked about this potential beforehand, he's not a flawless player. His ceiling is high, but my primary concern with him is the durability. Even though he's clearly a tough guy and he has played a ton, the fact that in 2019, the back is what cost him half his season. that's a concern now.
And had some back pain this year.
And had some back pain this year, and he's not exactly behind right now. At least the Niners their offensive line needs some help, just like the Rams' offensive line needs some help. But he makes an offensive line better than Jared Goff makes an offensive line too. But anyway, yeah, I would be giving the Niners credit for being aggressive.
I would say that's a lot.
I would not love it. I would feel good about the fact that they upgraded a quarterback, which if you just say you upgraded a quarterback, is that good? Yes, that's always good.
Yeah. Because that's what we're giving the Rams credit for, and they're a contender. Now, I think their team on paper, because they have all these stars committed, right? Jalen, Donald, Kupp, Akers, who else? Robert Woods. Like, they are kind of ready. Like, the Niners, there is some turnover going on with them. They're going to lose a bunch of players this year. They have like these new influx of young guys that I think like Kinlaw, how good can he be? It's still unknown. Upside feels high. Bosa coming back off an ACL. There's just some question marks. It would have been a risky move because I would have been like, wait. And again, I'm someone that thinks I can flip Jimmy for like a fourth. I don't have to include Jimmy in that. Like Jimmy is separate out. My 2 ones alone should be enough because my 2 ones, 12 and next year's one, is better than what the Rams got, or excuse me, the Lions got. Because when you do the math on the future picks,
like Jared Goff, which at this
and
point,
that to me gets back to the inside job / inside information, or the GM convinced Dan Campbell to like the guy. And if they like Jared Goff dramatically more than Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think is fair to say maybe they do, because you could argue if like you just needed a quarterback, I give you 12 and Jimmy Garoppolo and like next year's 3, that's a lot. Because 12 is a lot, right? The Niners last year went from, they didn't have any picks, remember? They went from 13 to 14. They used that extra pick to move up to get Ayuk. So it's like, but we're kind of arguing semantics here. At the end of the day, one team's got Matt Stafford, and it's a team you play twice a year, and it's kind of like your little coaching rivalry. And you still, as of right now, a lot of time left, have fucking guy that I don't think any of the fans want back. / I don't really think you want back. / he's hurt all the time, and he's not as good as Matt Stafford. So there's 2 ways to look at it. We could get in the nitty-gritty and like the value. Yeah, you save some money. But one guy has a house. Yeah, maybe he overpaid for. He's living in the house. You're nitpicking, but you're still in your house. Now, can you upgrade? Maybe. And we keep saying that. Probably, but maybe not. Like, can you like land Matt? Because if I told you, like, hey, guy, they end up getting, and we'll dive into the options, but I'll just for this.
Yeah,
we'll go through some of the options, but let's just land quarterback X, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, or whatever, for a fourth, and can just hold you over for a year or 2, and you're just going to be able to compete with them. You're like, well, I'd rather have the 12, and maybe you can convince me. And that's where I'm not going to like draw some line in the sand and crush them, because I understand if you're a fan, you're like, what the hell? What, the Rams got him? Because my text blew up. Like, oh, are you kidding me? Most people, I know a ton of, like we all do if you live in Northern California, most of my friends are Niner fans, and they were just perplexed. Joff hit the floor like anyone did, just the Rams got him. So now the Niners got to play this guy, and they're still stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo. So can they pivot? Time is on their side, but the options, like this was the best options, now the most expensive option.
Yeah, but again, part of the big picture is Jimmy Garoppolo their starter opening day? Do they nail the 12th pick, or in 2 years do we look back and they whiffed on the pick? Do they use the pick to move up? Like, that's part of the big picture.
Because I think Sean McVay would be like, oh yeah, you guys we haven't had a first rounder in forever. Like, how's Reuben Foster and Solomon Thomas treating you?
Right.
Oh, McGlinchey's really killing it, isn't he?
Right. Yep. Nick Bosa, I didn't see him when we played.
No, you know who I do see? Jalen Ramsey dominating DK Metcalf. You know who I do see? Jared Goff on a plane flight to Motor City, and Matt Stafford driving up from Newport every day. Because of that, that's where I get back to McVay. But my ultimate point on this, I don't know if the Niners, they were in a tough spot because their pick is way better than all these teams.
And we talked about that from
picks.
the beginning. You'd much rather trade the 21st pick than the 12th pick. I'll answer it simply this way.
But it was kind of in that land where if it was like 7, we wouldn't even have discussed it. But it was like in the early teens or like, 12.
Yeah, if they'd had 25, you would have been like, God, why didn't you trade 25 for Matt Stafford? As it stands today, I think it's easy I think what a lot of Niner fans have is FOMO.
But I just think today the
Rams
are way better than the Niners.
Yeah. Yes. That's true.
Just that simple.
But it also they're part of the reason they're better is because in the trade they got rid of something they didn't want. The Niners would not have been trading in all likelihood anything they didn't want. Maybe they send Jimmy Garoppolo, but whatever. You don't want him, but he's not going to be on your roster next year, costing you money like Jared Goff would have been, unless he's your starter, right? Like the Rams traded something they didn't want. That's part of how the deal got done.
In a weird way, it feels like, and we've mentioned this now a couple times, like the Lions, and this is what I keep saying about the inside job, like they kind of wanted this guy that didn't make any sense why they would want him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I still can't comprehend why they would want Jared Goff.
If I were them, I'd rather want Jimmy because I know I could get out of it. But maybe they just
or you know what I'd want? I just want some picks, and I'd want to go sign. Hey Dan, we're not going to draft a quarterback this year. We're going to build it slow. Let's copy the Miami Dolphin model. Hey, call Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'll pay you 1 year, $8 million instead of giving Jared Goff $30. That's what I can't. That's where the Niners are in a tough spot, and I think the Colts. I'd imagine people in Indy right now kind of had their hands up. I don't know if it would have been very difficult for those two teams because deep down to them, they don't feel, and I'll never forget Parag telling this when we interviewed him, because like, God, don't you feel like you like fleecing a deal? And I've talked to Howie about this, you and I know because we own all of our entities. When you do a deal with someone, you want to feel like you don't want to feel like you're screwing them over. You don't want to feel like you're getting screwed. You want to feel like it's a good deal. And I think the price that these teams would have had to pay, they might have questioned, like, are we paying too much? Because I think the Rams are looking like, God, given that they got rid of Goff, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The Niners were just trying to acquire Stafford. It's like, we're going to give you 12 and next year's one, and you want like a third? Like, that's a lot.
I'd rather be, just from this situation, I'd rather be the Niners than the Colts right now.
That's just based on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, it's just based on the Colts literally have nobody.
Here's where I'd push back. Like, are the Colts with Ryan Fitzpatrick better than the Niners with Jimmy Garoppolo? Can he stay healthy for 16 games? Probably not.
Yeah, the Colts might be better with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I saw Ryan Fitzpatrick rolling.
But the Niners can get Ryan Fitzpatrick. They can cut Jimmy. It doesn't cost him anything. So
yeah, I'm not opposed to that. You go draft a guy.
That video will blow up. Saturday Night Middle Call. Fitzpatrick just got signed. Hurry, emergency pod.
I'm not saying but back to what we were talking about. Did the Niners miss out? If they end up with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Trey Lance redshirting, they are not as good as the Rams. They're just not.
Yeah.
Now, can they get could the Niners be good next year, let's say, if Jimmy Garoppolo stayed? I think that's the major question mark. I think that's where people struggle with. The little bit we saw of Jimmy Garoppolo, it did not look that good. So if they got Jimmy Garoppolo back, is he throwing it high for Ayuk and getting him depleted and injured? It's like you just don't. How could anyone trust Jimmy Garoppolo right now? This is us talking, let alone those guys.
No.
But here's where the Niners, where I think they get a lot of pushback, it does feel like everything with them is this ultimate economic exercise, just like the Patriots, and they just never budge. The difference with the Patriots, though, for 20 years, they had this guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name was Thomas Brady, as Matt Slater calls him. And you could do that and still kick the shit out of everybody. The Niners, sometimes it feels like, could they have been a little more aggressive? And they're not winning enough. And this is...
You're saying they're too picky for how
I mentioned
how
this
good
to you
they're not.
before the podcast. If the Niners, it's easy market out here. Not necessarily, I think fans are pissed right now. And when I say pissed, like what the hell? But it's not Philadelphia. It's not New York. It's not Boston. If it was the equivalent, given the power of this franchise, I think a lot of people would be like, why aren't you guys taking huge swings? Because they don't really. They just don't. And which is, I kind of like, because I think the coach is good. But we mentioned this with Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan's excellent. He's made the playoffs one time.
You don't like biding your time for 6 years.
For what, though? But for like this hope? Sometimes
we're
hope,
going to do this right. We're building this house right. Yeah, but I need a place to live, and you've been building this home for 6 years.
It's why everyone could nitpick the Patriots. You couldn't for 20 years because his results were unparalleled.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I defend the Rams. How are they not going to go to the playoffs next year? That'll be 4
it'll be a disappointment if they don't win as it sits today. It will be a disappointment if they don't win the division.
I saw a lot of people like the Rams, Super Bowl or bust. Like, hey guys, no one's Super Bowl or bust in the league except Belichick and Brady, and they don't even exist anymore. And maybe now Mahomes and Andy turn into that. But I will say this: anything less to them next year than I'd say like an NFC Championship berth would be a disappointment. They were just in the second round.
But I also think part of it is just like when you watch it, does it look like it's working? Like we'll know 5 weeks in, like is this working with Stafford? And
Are they winning 13 games and are they one of the funnest teams in the league?
Are they kicking people's asses?
Doing huge TV ratings in LA?
Yeah.